You need to listen to this. You need to put down whatever you're doing, turn up the volume, and pay attention. Because the NFL season hasn't even truly started, and yet the Cleveland Browns, the eternal vortex of football drama, have done it again. This is not about a bad call, a tough loss, or a minor controversy. This is a full-blown crisis of confidence, a mutiny in the making, a quarterback civil war, and it all stems from one absolutely devastating, public, career-ending comment. Did a Cleveland Browns insider, a man who has been covering this team since the days of leather helmets, since the stadium was a muddy patch of grass next to Lake Erie, just go on live television and call the team's brand new starting quarterback a stone-cold loser? Yes, he did. And what he said next, the prophecy he laid out for the entire world to hear, is sending a Category 5 earthquake through the city of Cleveland, the shockwaves of which are already shattering the delicate peace inside that facility. This isn't just a sports story, it's a political thriller wearing pads and a helmet. Because while the newly minted starter, Dillon Gabriel, is nervously looking over his shoulder, the entire locker room, the heart and soul of this franchise, the guys who bleed, who lead, who decide the fate of this team on Sunday, are looking right past him, directly at the young prince waiting in the wings, Shedeur Sanders, the son of prime time, the cultural phenomenon, the star whose very presence is a threat. Welcome back to the channel. I told you at the start of the summer this was going to happen. I warned you that the Browns were playing with fire, attempting to bridge the gap with a quiet professional, while the most magnetic box office quarterback prospect in a decade was standing right there, draped in swag, oozing confidence. And folks, the lid has come off. You need to find something to hold on to, because what is brewing inside the Cleveland Browns facility right now is not just a quarterback competition, it's a full-blown civil war. It's a story of backroom politics, locker room allegiances being pledged in secret, and a power shift so dramatic it feels like something ripped from a television script, a dramatic narrative of inevitable succession. We have bombshell reports from the most trusted voices in the city, voices that speak not for the team, but for the soul of the franchise and the fans. We have secret praise from the team's biggest superstars, the alpha dogs in the locker room, who are openly and loudly choosing a side. And we have a head coach in pure, unadulterated panic mode, desperately trying to manage a situation that has already spiraled completely out of his control. The countdown clock on Dillon Gabriel's career as a starter has officially and loudly begun. Forget the game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh this week. Forget the AFC North standings for a moment. The real war, the one that truly matters, the one that will define this franchise for the next decade, is happening in their own building. And according to the guys who know, the guys in the pads and helmets, the winner has already been decided. The shot heard round Cleveland has been fired. Let's get right to the nuclear bomb that just vaporized any sense of stability in Cleveland. Tony Grossi. If you know Cleveland football, you know that name. The man is an institution. He's been covering the Browns since the Stone Age. His sources run deeper than the Cuyahoga River, and his words, however savage or controversial, are treated as gospel in the dog pound. This isn't some hot take artist looking for clicks, or a national talking head who barely watches the team. This is the city's football oracle. This is the man who has seen every high, every low, every heartbreaking failure this franchise has ever produced. And he just went on air and dropped a statement so savage, so brutally honest, that it has completely altered the trajectory of the Browns season and perhaps the entire career of Dillon Gabriel. He wasn't just stirring the pot, he poured a gallon of gasoline on it, lit a match, and walked away like a villain in a blockbuster movie who knows the explosion is inevitable. The conversation was simple. The host asked about the dynamic, the energy, the pressure cooker atmosphere between the newly anointed starter, Dillon Gabriel, and the superstar rookie, the son of primetime, Shedeur Sanders. Grossi, without a moment's hesitation, leaned into the microphone and delivered the kill shot, the statement that will be played in highlight reels for years. He said, and I am quoting this directly so you understand the gravity, the sheer venom of the situation. Gabriel's probably a loser in this for that reason, because now Shedeur is right on his heels and his huge contingent of fans. Let that sink in for a minute. Just let the poison of those words seep into your mind. A veteran reporter, a man whose press pass gives him unfettered access to the deepest sanctums of the team facility, the meeting rooms, the training tables, the very pulse of the organization, just publicly labeled the starting quarterback of an NFL team a loser in the situation before he's even had a chance to truly succeed or fail. This isn't just an opinion shouted from the cheap seats. This is a reflection of the undeniable, palpable reality inside that building and echoing through the stands. Grossi is the canary in the coal mine, and he's not just choking on toxic fumes. He's screaming at the top of his lungs that the entire mine is about to collapse directly on top of Dillon Gabriel's head. This is the kind of statement that ends careers. This is the pre-game obituary for a player's tenure as a starter. The message is clear. The forces against you, Gabriel, are already too great. The crowd has already chosen. You are destined to fail because the replacement is already a king in waiting. But he didn't stop there. Oh no, it gets so much worse for Gabriel, so much more delicious for the rest of us. Grossi then painted a nightmare scenario, a vision of the immediate future that should send a chilling frost down the spine of any quarterback who has ever taken a snap in the NFL. He continued, "We're going to hear chants for Shedeur as soon as he throws an incompletion, and he hasn't even thrown an interception yet." Do you fully comprehend the psychological warfare that Dillon Gabriel is now facing? It is an unwinnable battle. He isn't just preparing to play against the vaunted, blitz-heavy defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, a historically brutal road environment. No. His real opponents are the 70,000 people who are supposed to be cheering for him, the millions watching at home who have already tasted the excitement of the new generation. He's playing against his own fans. He's playing against the ghost of Shedeur Sanders, a ghost that is very much alive, breathing down his neck on the sideline, wearing a number 2 jersey and dripping with bouquet-ish, unshakable swagger. Every single snap, every pre-snap read, every drop back, every single throw will be scrutinized under a microscope of impossible expectations. The moment he makes one mistake, not a game-losing interception, not a costly fumble, just a simple, routine, incomplete pass that bounces off the turf, the stadium, his stadium, is set to erupt with thunderous unified calls for his public execution. That isn't pressure. That's a televised hostage situation where the quarterback is the only one without a weapon. The fans have been primed by Grossi's words. The narrative has been set in stone. Dillon Gabriel is not the starting quarterback. He is the placeholder. He is the guy keeping the throne warm until the real king arrives. The bridge quarterback whose purpose is to be crossed over. And according to the biggest, baddest, most important names in the Browns locker room, the king is already holding court and the players are lining up to kiss the ring. The eternal allegiance has been pledged. If you're sitting there thinking Tony Grossi's comments are just media hype, just one man's opinion, you are dead wrong. This sentiment is not being manufactured by the press. It is bubbling up directly from the heart of the team, from the leaders, the superstars, the alpha dogs, whose opinions are the only ones that actually matter inside those walls. And they aren't whispering their allegiance in the hallways like cautious middle managers. They're shouting their support for Shedeur from the rooftops for every microphone to hear, using their status, their platform, their clout to influence the decision. The locker room has spoken and they want a king. They've seen enough. They've been around long enough to know the difference between a reliable game manager and an honest-to-God superstar, and they are using the one tool they have, their public voice, to pressure the coaches and the front office into making the change. This is the ultimate form of player empowerment. Let's start with the undisputed face of the franchise, the Defensive Player of the Year, the first ballot Hall of Famer in waiting, the soul of the Cleveland Browns defense, Myles Garrett. When number 95 speaks, everyone from the water boy to the owner in his luxury suite listens. He is the moral compass and the physical anchor of this team, and what he said about Shedeur Sanders is the single most damning piece of evidence against Dillon Gabriel's future as the starter. Myles revealed something, a small detail about Shedeur's routine that tells you everything you need to know about who is truly preparing to lead this team to glory. It wasn't about a big play in practice or a flashy throw. It was about work. He said almost every morning you see him in there, talking through plays, talking through schemes with coach, making sure that he's ready for, his moment when he gets called up. Read that back to yourself slowly, almost every morning before the sun has even crested over Lake Erie, before most of his teammates have even hit the snooze button, before the lights in the facility are fully on. Shedeur Sanders, the backup, the rookie, the guy who is supposed to be patiently waiting his turn, is in the coach's office grinding away. He's not just learning the playbook, he's dissecting it, mastering its nuances, preparing for every eventuality, every single defensive look, every possible pressure point. He's not waiting for his turn, he's preparing for his coronation. He is laying the foundation for his takeover, brick by silent, dedicated brick. This is not the behavior of a young player happy to hold a clipboard and collect a paycheck. This This is the obsessive, maniacal work ethic of a future franchise quarterback. This is the discipline of a young man who was raised by Deion Primetime Sanders, a man who knows that greatness isn't given. It's forged in the dark, in the quiet, lonely moments when no one else is watching. It's a work ethic that demands respect from every peer, especially a player like Garrett, whose own success is built on a foundation of relentless preparation. And Myles Garrett is watching. He sees it all. He sees the dedication that borders on obsession. He sees the maturity that belies his age. He sees the relentless, insatiable pursuit of perfection. He sees the potential for a new era. And when a leader of Myles Garrett's stature publicly praises that level of commitment from a rookie quarterback, it's not a simple compliment. It's a political statement. It's a message sent loud and clear to the coaching staff, to the front office, and most pointedly to Dillon Gabriel. It says, this is the new standard. This is the guy we are willing to go to war for. This is who we are rallying behind. The defensive captain has chosen his quarterback, and it isn't the guy currently taking snaps with the first team. The leader of the defense has cast his vote, and the ballot box is closed for the incumbent. But the allegiances don't stop on the defensive side of the ball. This is a team-wide sentiment. Let's wander over to the offense. Let's talk to the man who is supposed to be Dillon Gabriel's #1 target. The star wide receiver brought in to be the final piece of the puzzle, the deep threat, the separator, Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy is the one who needs to be building a deep, almost telepathic chemistry with Gabriel. Their success is supposed to be intertwined, their connection the focal point of the offense. Yet when Jeudy was asked about the rookie Shedeur, he didn't give some generic, polite, media-trained answer about a great guy or good teammate. He gave a glowing endorsement, an affirmation of readiness that should have set off 5-alarm fire bells in the head coach's office. Jeudy praised Shedeur for understanding the plays, doing whatever the coach asked for. You know, the great job. Just, being a pro and, doing what you need to do to be able to, once you get a chance, to take advantage of that. The key phrase there, the 5 words that tell the entire story, is once you get a chance. Not if, not maybe, once. Let that marinate. The players in that locker room do not see this as a possibility anymore. They see it as an inevitability. They're already operating under the assumption that Shedeur's time is not just coming, it is imminent. Jerry Jeudy is essentially broadcasting to the world. This kid is ready to roll right now, and we're all just waiting for the coaches to catch up to what we, the players, already know. He's not saying, I hope he gets a chance. He's saying when the coach finally smartens up and puts him in, he will dominate. When your star receiver, the man whose paycheck is directly tied to the starting quarterback's production, is actively hyping up the backup quarterback's readiness to take over the huddle, the writing isn't just on the wall. It's been spray painted in giant neon flashing letters for the entire league to see. The players always know first. They see who puts in the extra work in the film room, yes, as Garrett pointed out, but they also see who commands respect in the huddle without even trying. They know who has that unteachable, intangible it factor. The magnetic charisma, the innate belief that victory is the only option. And right now, every single sign, every quote, every piece of body language is pointing directly at #2, Shedeur Sanders. He doesn't have to win them over with words. He wins them over with his presence and his preparation. To understand how we reach this boiling point so rapidly, you have to understand the 2 men at the epicenter of this storm. They are oil and water, night and day, a spreadsheet and a sold-out rock concert. This is a tale of 2 quarterbacks, the accountant versus the rock star. On one side, you have the established professional, the by-the-book journeyman who's been around the league and knows the system. On the other, you have pure, unadulterated grade A star power, a cultural phenomenon in cleats. Dillon Gabriel is not a bad quarterback, let's be clear about that. He had a solid, respectable college career at both UCF and Oklahoma, a career built on efficiency and dedication. He came to the Browns as the supposed bridge, the safe pair of hands designed to steady the ship and manage the game until the next great era. He's a consummate professional. He says all the right things in press conferences. He even gave this incredibly detailed, almost poetic analogy about his readiness to step in, comparing his role as a backup to a fire station. He said, and it's quite the quote, "He sent me a picture of a fire station, doors are open, garage doors are open, like things are ready to go, and like they're just waiting on that phone call to like respond surgically." What a great representation of like the job I had and being ready for that moment. It's a great answer. It's thoughtful, it's articulate, it's intelligent, and it's completely and utterly sterile. It's the answer of a middle manager, an accountant, a guy who thinks about the process, about surgical execution and procedural readiness. It's a perfectly respectable veteran response. But in the brutal, alpha-driven world of an NFL locker room, a place where egos collide and only the most dominant personalities thrive, players and fans don't rally around a process. They rally around a presence. They rally around a leader who makes them believe they can run through a brick wall, who carries an air of invincibility. And that is where Shedeur Sanders enters the chat. Shedeur Sanders is not just a quarterback. He is a phenomenon. He is a cultural force. He was born and bred for this exact moment. He grew up with a gold-jacketed Hall of Fame father, the one and only Dillon Sanders, as his personal coach, mentor, strategist, and hype man. Pressure isn't something he feels, it's something he breathes like oxygen. He played under the brightest, most intense lights imaginable at both Jackson State and the University of Colorado, carrying the weight of entire programs and cultural movements on his shoulders. What would crush a lesser quarterback? The pressure to live up to the name, the constant camera glare. For him, it is simply championship DNA flowing through his veins. He walks with a swagger, the famous Shedeur shuffle, that infuriates opponents and electrifies teammates. That kind of unshakable confidence, that aura of inevitability, it's not something you can learn in a quarterback meeting or practice with a sports psychologist. It's infectious, it's magnetic, and based on the comments from Garrett and Judy, it has clearly infected and taken over the entire Browns locker room. The players look at Gabriel and see a man managing the game. They look at Shedeur and see a man who believes he can win the Super Bowl. Now, some of the old school grizzled NFL minds will point to Shedeur's off-field brand, his massive social media following, his content creator persona, his diamond watches as a potential distraction. They'll say he doesn't take the game seriously enough, that he's more focused on the shade than the game, but they are fundamentally missing the point, a point that Myles Garrett's quote absolutely dismantles. Shedeur represents the new age of NFL superstar, a player who understands that his brand and his game are symbiotically intertwined. He brings the energy, the excitement, the juice that professional football now demands. More importantly, as Myles Garrett's testimony proves, he backs up the flash with an insane, borderline psychotic work ethic. He is proving every single day that you can be a personality and a professional, a star, and a diligent student of the game. He's changing the very paradigm of what a franchise quarterback is supposed to be. And Dillon Gabriel, with his meticulous fire station analogies, is being left behind in the smoke, watching the new world pass him by. He's competing against a player who is already a legend in the making, already a cultural figure before taking his first NFL snap, and that is a battle he simply cannot and will not win. His professionalism is respectable. Shedeur's destiny is irresistible. The panic in the head coach's office. So, with the most respected journalist in the city calling his quarterback a loser, and the leaders in his locker room publicly anointing his backup, where does that leave the man in charge? Head coach Kevin Stefanski. In one word, panic. He is a man on a tightrope over a pool of sharks in the middle of a hurricane, and the rope is already fraying. When reporters smelling blood in the water grilled Stefanski about the quarterback situation, asking him the simple, direct question of whether Shedeur was officially the backup quarterback, the QB2, he gave the most evasive, tap-dancing, nonsensical non-answer you have ever heard. He waffled, he deflected, he basically shrugged his shoulders and said he didn't really know who his primary backup was. Come on, man, are you kidding me? You're the head coach of a billion-dollar NFL franchise, a man responsible for every minute detail of the operation, and you're telling the public you don't know who your primary backup is at the most important position in all of sports. That is the biggest load of garbage imaginable. Of course, he knows. He knew the depth chart the second the final roster was set. Every single coach in the league knows his depth chart. What he's really doing is desperately, frantically trying to keep a lid on a powder keg that's already got smoke pouring out of it. He knows the second he officially names Shedeur Sanders as the QB2, the countdown clock on Dillon Gabriel officially starts ticking in bright neon numbers for the entire world to see. The pressure will multiply not by 1,000, but by 1,000,000. The fan chants that Tony Grossi predicted will transform from a distant possibility into an absolute certainty. Stefanski is trying to buy himself time. He's He's trying to control a narrative that has already been violently ripped out of his hands by his own players, the media, and the sheer force of Shedeur's magnetic celebrity. He is attempting the impossible task of putting the genie back in the bottle. But here's the crucial part, the part that Stefanski seems to be forgetting. He doesn't control the ultimate outcome. He answers to the owner, Jimmy Haslam. At the end of the day, Haslam signs the multi-million-dollar checks, and he is the one who makes the real franchise-defining decisions. And what do billionaire owners care about above all else? Winning football games and making mountains of money. Shedeur Sanders represents the Powerball jackpot for both. On the field, he brings the potential for explosive, dynamic, incredible success that this city hasn't seen in generations. A talent level that can fundamentally shift the team's ceiling from playoff contender to Super Bowl dark horse. Off the field, he is a guaranteed marketing goldmine. The jersey sales alone will be astronomical. The number 2 jerseys will outsell the entire rest of the roster combined within a month. The hype, the national media attention, the primetime games, every single Sunday with Shedeur is an event. Shedeur isn't just a football player. He's a one-man economic stimulus package for the entire franchise. When your team's best and most respected players, guys like Myles Garrett and Jerry Jeudy, are publicly stumping for the rookie, and your long-suffering fan base is ready to storm the gates to see him play, an owner listens. An owner with Jimmy Haslam's track record of impatience and his desire for a superstar, a true, undeniable, transcendent star, absolutely listens. The pressure isn't just on Stefanski from the media and the fans. You better believe it's cascading down from the very top of the organizational chart. The calls from the owner's box are about to become less of an inquiry and more of a demand. This is no longer just a football decision. It's a business decision. It's a marketing decision. It's a culture decision. And in the ruthless business of hype, excitement, and star power, Dillon Gabriel is completely bankrupt. He's a well-organized fire station. Shedeur Sanders is a meteor strike. And Shedeur Sanders owns the entire bank and the deed to the city. The inevitable eruption, a city on the brink. So what happens now? Where does this runaway train go from here? This is where it gets truly spicy. The Browns are marching into the Lions' Den this week. Pittsburgh, Acrisure Stadium. A hostile towel-waving crowd. A vicious quarterback-hunting defense led by the omnipresent, terrifying force that is TJ Watt. And a starting quarterback in Dillon Gabriel who knows his entire professional career is hanging by a single frayed thread. This is a pressure cooker specifically designed to make even the most seasoned veterans crack. This is the ultimate crucible. Imagine the scene. It's 3rd and 8 in the third quarter. The noise is so deafening, Gabriel can't hear his own thoughts. His earpiece is useless. TJ Watt is screaming off the edge like a heat-seeking missile, completely unblockable. The pocket is collapsing. If Dillon Gabriel stands tall in that pocket, takes a bone-jarring hit, and delivers a perfect frozen rope strike to Jeudy for a first down, maybe, just maybe, he silences the noise for another week. He buys himself a temporary stay of execution. He earns the right to walk into the building the next day without his coach having to answer 100 questions about his job security. But what if he doesn't? What if he rushes his throw and it sails into the waiting arms of Minkah Fitzpatrick for an interception? What if he holds onto the ball a second too long and fumbles, turning a potential field goal drive into a Steelers touchdown? What if the offense just looks stagnant, lifeless, and uninspired for 3 straight quarters, settling for 3 and outs and field goals, looking small in the face of the moment? The calls for Shedeur on sports talk radio and social media won't just be loud, they will be deafening. The fire that Tony Grossi started with a single match will become an uncontrollable, all-consuming inferno. The entire fan base will be united in a demand for change that no head coach can ignore. But even if by some miracle Gabriel survives the crucible of Pittsburgh, even if he plays an efficient, mistake-free if unspectacular game, the real test, the true moment of reckoning, comes the following week when the Browns return home. That is when the prophecy will be fulfilled. That is when the public trial will commence. Tony Grossi laid it out perfectly. There is a large contingent of Shedeur Sanders fans in that stadium just waiting. They've bought their tickets, they've made their signs, discreetly tucked away for the perfect moment, and their vocal cords are rested and ready to make their voices heard. They aren't going to be rude, they're going to be right. Picture it. It's the Browns' first offensive possession of their home game. The crowd is buzzing with nervous, anxious energy. Gabriel drops back on first down, looks for his receiver on a simple out route, and the ball sails just a little high, bouncing harmlessly off the turf. Incomplete. It's not a terrible play. It happens 100 times every Sunday, but then you hear it. It starts in one section, a low, guttural rumble. We want Shedeur. Then another section, emboldened, picks it up. We want Shedeur! Then another and another. Within seconds, the entire stadium is chanting in perfect, chilling unison. A 70,000 person choir demanding the public benching of their own starting quarterback. What does that do to a man's psyche? To his confidence? To his ability to see the field? To trust his reads? To pull the trigger on a throw? It turns the game of football into an inescapable, pressurized, internal hell. It becomes a vicious, self-fulfilling prophecy. The immense, paralyzing pressure leads to more mistakes, and the mistakes validate the chants, making them even louder, more insistent, and more venomous. There is no escape. There is no recovery. It's a quarterback's worst nightmare, and it's not a question of if it will happen, but when. Shedeur Sanders has not taken a single meaningful snap in the National Football League, yet he has already won. He won over the most important player in the locker room, Myles Garrett, with his relentless work ethic. He won over a star receiver, Jerry Jeudy, with his obvious talent and readiness. He won over the city's most powerful media voice with his undeniable star power, and he's about to win over the entire city of Cleveland without even stepping on the field. He is the answer they've been praying for. He is the future. He is the guy everyone in that building, from the top down, truly believes in. And through it all, he has handled this entire explosive situation with the poise and maturity of a 10-year veteran. Never creating drama, never complaining, never demanding the ball, just putting in the work in the dark and waiting for the moment everyone knows is coming. He is letting the system cannibalize itself. He is letting his work and his brand do the talking. Dillon Gabriel is a man on an island surrounded by sharks. And the tide is coming in faster than anyone could have possibly imagined. The whispers have become voices. The voices are about to become a roar. And when that stadium erupts with the name of another man, it's game over. It's a dignified defeat, but a defeat nonetheless. The fuse has been lit, the explosion is coming, so the question is no longer if the Shedeur Sanders era will begin in Cleveland, but how many more snaps Dillon Gabriel has left. Is it one more game? Is it one more quarter? Is it just one more incomplete pass? The tension in Cleveland is now at a breaking point, and the entire league is watching with popcorn in hand. I want to know what you think. Is Tony Grossi right? Is Dillon Gabriel already a dead man walking in Cleveland? Is the locker room right to be all in on Shedeur before he's even played? Drop your fiery predictions in the comment section below. This situation is about to get absolutely wild, and we are going to be here to break down every single piece of the fallout. If you made it this far, do me a favor and absolutely smash that like button, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell, because the Cleveland quarterback civil war is officially the biggest, juiciest story in the entire NFL, and you will not want to miss a second.